Here at Behind the Mask, we acknowledge that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples are the original storytellers and custodians of the land on which we live and meet today. Behind the Mask is a podcast about sharing authentic stories. And in continuing that legacy of storytelling, we acknowledge that we're honouring and celebrating Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders' traditions, customs and stories. And we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging.
Saw a psych when I was probably, I think it was under 12s, after I was just cut.
You went to a psych when you were 11?
Which is super unnormal back then. And it was on the back of missing out on the under 12s Vic team and sort of having a panic attack in the process of it.
A lot of my injuries, like there's somewhat like underlying like embarrassment of being like, I'm that.
Like a shame?
Yeah, like there's definitely a level of shame of being like, fuck, I just can't. My body is just not holding up.
I've got ADHD and I'm not very good at sitting still, but I can fixate on a piece of art for hours and miss dinner and not even realise. And yeah, it's pretty special to have found an outlet, and it's times like this where you are injured that you really appreciate that.
Like when I get injured, I know that like, you know, I know my family really feel that as well.
Do you feel like you're letting them down?
Oh, not letting them down. I just feel like it's like quite sad, like that they feel that as well.
I'm Josh Pitterman. I'm a singer, actor and certified meditation teacher. I've played many roles in my life, both on and off stage, and I've worn many masks. But I've always had a curiosity for what's happening behind those masks, behind identity and the ego. I want to explore the real stories beyond the bright lights of people's journeys and get a VIP pass to the backstage tour of their lives. In this new podcast series, you'll get to know some of the most extraordinary and inspiring people behind the masks that they wear. It's an opportunity for them to share their authentic stories, their successes, sacrifices, hurdles, triumphs, fears, motivations, insecurities, and passions, as well as their self-discoveries, philosophical or spiritual awakenings, the growth mindset tools they've used, and the wisdoms and lessons they've learnt to navigate their way through life with purpose and meaning. It's time to be inspired by the depths of what it means to feel truly human. It's time to go behind the mask. Lads, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time out of what is certainly a hectic life for you both. And I'm grateful that you want to share your authentic stories. So we're going to go straight deep dive. When you take off the Western Bulldogs AFL player mask and let go of the identity or identities attached to that, who's left? Who's Cody Weightman and Riley Garcia?
For me, I feel like probably a change in the guard now. I feel like I put the mask on rather than take it off now. Whereas I think probably with younger days, growing up, the mask is your football and that's kind of your identity. And just I think growing up a little bit, you learn to like mature and get away from that and realise who you are. And now I really feel like I have to put the mask on to play my best footy and embody a certain personality that can make me hard to play on or make me a bit edgy on the field. And when I take the mask off after the game, I think it just happens pretty naturally off field. I'm back to being me. So hopefully my authentic self and doing what I feel like doing.
And what is your authentic self? What are those things that you go, that is unconditionally me as Cody Weightman? The words that you use, the values you come back to, what are they?
Obviously I love my family, spending time with them. I just got back from the river with Dad this morning. And I think hanging out with mates and being social, but art's a big part of me now. That's really something that's come out in my everyday life. It's something I love doing. And yeah, I think there's a whole core values that I don't even really think about now, so it's hard to say on the spot, but it's just how I go about day-to-day life. And I like to think I'm pretty vulnerable and honest in my day-to-day, so I don't think there's too much mask on during the Monday to Friday practice for me.
Yeah, great. And what about you, Riley?
I think very similar to Cody in a way. I feel like growing up, a lot of my identity was tied to football. Like I've always been known as growing up through the ranks is like, oh, he's a good footballer. So I feel like naturally I've tied myself to those words, I guess. And then I guess making it to the AFL and dealing with like a lot of challenges and adversity, I feel like I've learnt a lot that there's more to me now than purely just football, which I guess didn't go to plan with all these injuries, but I guess with all those challenges, I've kind of just realised the things are important, and I'm pretty chilled and relaxed off field. I just love hanging out with mates and family. I'm always down for a laugh, just love a good time, and pretty cruisy. So I guess it only took me a couple of years like being in the system to fully understand that and learn that, but I feel like I'm pretty laid back and love a good time and love a laugh with my mates.
So that separation you both sort of talk about, did you feel that happened naturally, that conscious separation between the human being and the human doing as a footballer, or were there guides and people along the way who sort of helped you to find that and acknowledge that that's necessary in doing what you guys do?
I feel like personally, maybe it was a big challenge just like by myself, like something I've worked through the past couple of years. I mean, it's still something I continue to work through, but I feel like when you're faced with challenges and adversity, you really have to ask these questions of like, who am I if footy doesn't work out? And I feel like because I've had a lot of those challenges, I've asked that question a lot of times, and now I'm quite comfortable with who I am if footy doesn't work out. And I feel like in a way it kind of makes your footy flourish a bit because you're not tied to I need to make it as a footballer to, I guess, make it as a person, if that makes sense. So
to feel worthy.
Yeah. So I feel like that's a constant battle that I've had, and that was just kind of inside. And obviously I've had a lot of good mentors along the way. Me and Cody have met some good people. I feel like Asher was a big one through that process, as Cody probably touched on as well. So I feel like there's been people along the way that have definitely helped that.
Yeah, let's we're always going to talk about Asher on this potty because Asher's who brought us together, and we wouldn't know each other if it wasn't for that great man. How did you guys come across Asher? Asher Packman, who obviously is the man behind the Fifth Direction, which I think people should really, especially young men, should all be looking into. But how did you guys come across Asher? And we'll get back to some of those challenges and adversities because I know they really shape a lot of what goes on in your life.
Yeah, first that was a great answer, Riley. I really agree with that. Yeah. But coming back to Asher, I really random, but I was it was only a few weeks post draft for me, and I was living with Mitch Wallace at the time. He's sort of my mentor post draft. I had to move out of home, obviously, and he took me down to MSAC on a day off, and this tall, bald-haired man came up to me in his budgie smugglers, and he mentioned that
he's a big unit, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
He's like 6'8" or something.
Yeah,
He's not small.
Nah, not at all. He mentioned he heard on one of the draft interview, I think on draft night, I mentioned I'd dabbled with some meditation stuff and found that was something I enjoyed. And he basically just said, here's my number. If you ever want to explore it more, I head up Meditation Australia and I'd be happy to give you some direction or guidance or whatever it is. And that probably sat in my phone for 6 to 12 months, I reckon.
Really?
Yeah, and then didn't fully reconnect.
Were you thinking about it? Were you thinking,
I think
the tall dude in budgie smugglers got to hit him up?
I guess I had to go through my struggle to then be directed back to him. And I'm glad that I did. He was one of the people that I thought of straight away in the hub when I was probably struggling my football and I guess maturing and figuring out how to separate myself from footy. And because when it's not going well, you need to figure out who you are pretty quick because footy can consume you pretty quickly. And if that's your identity, it's a tough road, I guess. So that's kind of where Asher came back in, and he's an amazing man. He's helped me so much. And he was straight away ready to help, and he's been great for me and Riley.
And what did that help look like? Because, I mean, first of all, I'm in awe of you both because you reached out to and started working with Asher on really deep men's work. Like, this is stuff that I did the course the year before you guys, the Warriors Way course, and I was 34 working out who I was. I'd played Phantom in London and it was taken away from me because of COVID, and I was going, well, who am I if I'm not what I'm doing? But I was 34. You guys were like 19. So I think you guys are extraordinary young men for wanting to even look at that time and not go, porn, alcohol, cigarettes, the distractions that society normally go to when they're faced with those sort of adversities and questions. I don't want to deal with that. You guys both were so willing to go straight in. What were the sort of things that Asher brought to you that practical things that you went, I hadn't looked at it that way, or what was it about the way Asher communicated and what he communicated?
I guess I kind of fell into this through Cody, obviously living with him. Cody was talking about it and then said this kind of opportunities come up, and I met Asher in person a couple of times before this. I was kind of just was open to it. I thought, what's the worst that could possibly come out of something like this? I was actually quite excited about it, and so was Cody. And then as we kind of dabbled into it, it was quite interesting. It was men's work, but it was all online, and I feel like it's quite interesting early days because there's all different types of ages. We were like 20 and there was guys on there like 50, and everyone getting vulnerable was quite like interesting and eye-opening, hearing everyone talk and everyone's different stories. And I feel like what I learned was a lot of just like understanding and listening and kind of like understanding your own story and kind of not blaming others, just like being at peace with what you're going through. Everyone's obviously going through their own challenges. And I feel like as the weeks went on, we grew a lot, and it was quite interesting.
Collectively, you mean?
Yeah.
That sort of group healing. There's someone that Asher works with, a Canadian breath coach by the name of Steve Beattie. He comes on and does a lot of sessions on the Fifth Direction, and he says, the wolf lives alone, but the wolf pack live in their hearts. And this just sort of idea of when we come together as men and share, there's so much healing that happens together that we can't do alone. Did you feel like that, like just being heard and just being seen with other men who are also going through stuff, was just that in and of itself, or their stories were like, you know what, that story's also my story?
Yeah, I guess you can see the future a little bit too. They're older, they've been where you've been, and it makes everything feel a lot more relatable. Everyone's got their own problems and working through things, but collectively it does feel safer and nice to relate to people, I guess. I think as humans we crave that social interaction, and to do it with strangers is something that probably as footballers you don't get the chance to do a lot because
it's super vulnerable.
Yeah, you probably avoid being vulnerable with strangers because you get your safety guard up, and these footballers, I suppose you got to be this perfect ideal image sort of thing. So it was a pretty cool experience to have that. And I look back at the time where I sort of recommended Asher to Riley, and Sonny was going through some injury stuff, and when he'd play really well, and then injury after injury sort of thing, and away from home, and there's sort of a combination of challenges, and I felt relatable to the point where he was probably in a stage where it was like, I guess, searching for answers a little bit like I was in my first year. And it just felt like a good time, and we went down. I think we started with a bit of Wim Hof breathing. Sonny's done a 6-minute breath hold and nearly died on us.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Cody brought me along. I was just...
was this before you got in the ice?
Yeah. It was funny. I just forgot to breathe.
You've done your rounds, you've done your fully in, let it go, fully in, and then you've gone the breath hold, and you've lasted 6 minutes.
I don't know how long it was. I just kept going.
Exaggeration, but
Cody kept looking over at me, seeing if I was alive.
I'm out of breath. I've breathed heaps.
It was only uphill from there.
Did you get in the ice?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did after that. Yeah.
How did you feel getting in the ice? Because I'm always really interested in practical solutions.
Yeah.
Like we can talk about the things that we've gone through and whatever, but what's the gateway out of them, or what have I lent into in terms of tools and wisdom to help me get out? What came up for you guys going to the ice for the first time? Because it's pretty gnarly that first time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I still struggle with getting my whole body under an ice bath. I feel like I'm good up until my hips, and then once I put the arms in them, I can't hold it. But what happens? Do you just get the? I don't know if I've got the willpower to keep the arms in. No, it was good. That was kind of the first time that we've dabbled into like the Wim Hof space and the ice baths. I feel like that was a long time ago, whereas like I feel like they're very in right now and popular. Whereas when we were doing them, I thought it was a bit crazy back in the day. Cody dragged me along to this course. So
what was this, 2020, 2019?
Yeah, maybe 2020.
20, I reckon. Yeah.
Ash is always getting people in the ice. He got me in there for the first time. He's like some wise old owl. He sees through you. He's like, he sees that you need the ice. Yeah. He's going to learn something from the ice, and he's really gentle in the way he does it. But yeah, he threw me in there in 2017, and you feel like when you get in there, it's like if you'd come across Bruce Lee in your life and he wanted to roundhouse you in the face, that smack of like, I'm right here, right now, just hits you the moment you get in the ice. You have no choice but to be absolutely present.
Yeah.
You actually can't be anywhere else. And you're sort of going, do I get the fuck out of here? Like, do I just run away and that sort of flight response? Or do I go, I'm going to muscle my way through it and just go like, I'm going to be a real man and fighter? And that's probably not the best response. Or can I just surrender? Can I let go? I remember that first time when I did let go, the euphoria you feel from that. And sometimes it's emotional and sometimes it's just a high or whatever. But I think it teaches you so much. It builds your resilience.
For sure.
Yeah, it's sort of this gateway into pure discomfort.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about that in life and approaching, all our discomforts and all our ailments and injuries and all that. And we've all gone through them. It's probably a good sort of gateway into, your journey starting off, Riley. Like, it's horrific. Like, you're going into the system with an ACL. Didn't you get concussed on your debut?
Yeah, I did.
But like, who gets concussed? Like, people talk about, I kicked a goal with my first kick. I got concussed on my first game. What quarter was it in?
No, it was in the first. I remember
you got in the first quarter.
I remember going up to Flea and going because there was no crowd. I debuted in COVID, and I remember saying to Cody, like, "Where's the crowd? Like, what's going on?" And I thought it was a pracky game in preseason, so that's when I knew I wasn't in a good headspace.
Yeah, you were concussed.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I feel like
and then I remember watching you against North. You got me tickets codes, and I think it was the day that Josh Bruce kicked 10, and you did your knee.
Yeah, I had hurt my knee,
Again. And I was like, and obviously I've got emotional investment in you guys. So, when you did your elbow, I'm watching that and I'm sort of, I was, my girlfriend got home. She's like, are you okay? And I'm like, Cody's just done his elbow. It was horrific. I get quite emotional for you guys because I love you as men and as friends. I was, as happy as I was for Big Juice to kick 10, I was just gutted that you've done your knee. How, we don't talk about it enough. How do you actually feel? Not what's going on. I've done a knee. Like, how does it make you feel when that happens?
Well, if I'm being completely honest, I feel like a lot of my injuries, like there's some like underlying like embarrassment of being like, I'm that.
Like a shame.
Yeah, like there's definitely a level of shame of being like, fuck, I just can't, my body is just not holding up. And, there's obviously like through the ACL, there's trauma there from the knee. So I've had like challenges with my knee. But I feel like in that initial moment, it's just like pure like shame and like disappointment.
I hate that you feel like that. I actually hate that.
Yeah, and I feel like...
Is that because you there's a feeling as a footy player that, the heroicism that you guys, the superhumanism that you should live up to, you should be perfect and you're not perfect?
Oh, I think so. Like, and also I feel like I know that I'm so supported through my family and all my friends back home, and I know like what me playing football brings a lot of joy to others. But I also know the other side of like when I get injured, I know that like, I know my family really feel that as well.
Do you feel like you're letting them down?
Oh, not letting them down. I just feel like it's like quite sad, like that they feel that as well. And I feel like I can go through my battles and get through it, but it's quite sad when I think about, the disappointment that it might bring others. And that's something that I've worked through. And like my journey's been the opposite of smooth sailing. And I feel like every part of it has just been challenging. But I feel like one thing I've learned is like, that's just kind of life, Mm-hmm. And I'm not sitting here trying to make people feel sorry. Like people go through a lot harder challenges, but this is my story, and it's part of it now is like the acceptance of like, that's just how my journey's been, and let's see what else can happen,
Yeah, it's not what happens to us, but how we respond to what happens to us that defines us.
Yeah. And that saying also has like pissed me off a lot of the times, because sometimes I'm like, what is going on? You know, like I just can't get a smooth run.
And do you allow yourself to sort of lean into that and go, I feel angry, I feel devastated, I feel frustrated, I just want to cry? Like, do you allow yourself to feel those things?
Yeah, I think so. Like I feel like I think those things for like a really short period, and then I'm quite good at like just accepting, like, all right, what's like, I've just got to accept this and what's next, and, you know, whether it's rehab. And I feel like I've also got a good ability to just have good perspective and be like, well, I'm still rocking in the club every day, and, you know, still laughing and making jokes. Like, I feel like that side of it doesn't really affect me.
It'd suck if you weren't funny.
Oh, for sure. I feel like, I feel like there would be nothing worse if through my injuries I became quite negative, and I kind of was shit to be around the club.
So like that woe is me sort of victimhood.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I've never felt like you carry that. Who's around you at those times? Who do you feel like are your biggest supporters?
Well, I feel like it's always the people close to you, like my girlfriend. She's, an amazing support. I feel like they kind of ride every high and low with you, but don't get any recognition, or, you know, like we obviously run out on the weekends, but there's so much every week, highs and lows, that they kind of see every bit of. And then you got your family, like I'm from Perth, but obviously speak to them a lot. So yeah, I'm definitely well supported, and I feel that a lot.
That's beautiful.
Probably where I get it from.
Thank you for sharing that. Such a really beautiful open share. Thanks, mate. Codes, what about you? What you know, I see, you know, you do your elbow, and you had groin stuff and various other stuff, but it's like the Insta post says BRB, right? And because we know you're going to be back, and you know that an injury like that might take 6-8 weeks, or maybe longer, maybe shorter. But what do you? That's Insta might be a projection. It might not. I don't know what it is for you. But what do you actually feel when that moment when you go down, you're calling the trainer, you're waving your hand, and you go, I know I've done this again.
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty lucky. Touch wood. I haven't really had a long-term injury in season, so it's all a little bit unknown for me. I missed 4 weeks last year at the start of the year, but had plenty of time to process that, and I knew that early. But this one's in the middle of the year, obviously, so it's a bit different. But I love the idea, like, success leaves clues, and I look at Riley particularly, and the way he's handled every rehab. There's no doubt the way he comes back, he instantly plays good again.
Yeah,
and
better. Maybe.
Yeah, every time Riley's playing, he's playing unbelievable footy.
Yeah,
and I think that's because he doesn't have this mask on. He's not wavering in his moods, like he just touched on, and he's got a really healthy mindset towards his recovery, and his body physically reacts well to that. And so I think that we talked about that after this, and the mindset and the attitude towards your recovery is super important. And I think I'm just sort of just trying to adopt that. And there's a lot of positives out of this too. I'm excited about whether it's, you know, it's 8-10 weeks to dabble in my art a bit more, and footy kind of becomes a little bit part-time while I rehab an injury. This time of the year is normally just full footy pressure and all of that. And I've got a bit of time where I guess the attention's on us, where I can actually diversify myself and explore some other things. So I think like it's easy to get disappointed and feel sorry for yourself. It's also important to feel that and accept that and honour it, I guess. But there's a point where you got to move on and decide how you're going to progress with this, whether you're going to stay in that and try and get sympathy and go into the club and be a negative influence, or I think whether you're going to project well upon others. And I think, the great thing for me is there's a carrot at the end of the tunnel where I'm going to be able to play again this year if everything goes to plan. And it's not like I'm Riley where he's had some really long-term injuries, and that's a long way away. So it's a short little chunk for me that I'm looking forward to be honest, and we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, you guys are amazing. Your perspective for such young men, you know, I said earlier that, stepping into what Ashes does is, you know, fills me with so much inspiration and awe, but just the way you guys approach hardship and adversity, it's amazing. So I know art's been a huge thing for you, Codes. How did that come in? Was it, we talk about creativity as the language of the soul. And I know you've done with Asher a lot of soul work. Is that what it is for you? Is it about able to express something that is just so deep within you that maybe you don't get to express when you're flying over Luke Jackson and landing on your arm and doing your elbow?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm still learning the story behind my art journey. I did a lot throughout school, and I got to about year 10, and I was sort of directed a little bit away from it at an academic school. I don't think that's wrong or right. It just was going to be better for my ATAR, and so I went down that route to, if footy didn't work, I'd have something to, I guess, statistically fall on. And I detached myself from art for quite a while. And then in my first, second year sort of thing, it was always surfing on my day off or training more. That sort of filled in my spare days. And then I had an ankle injury end of my first year that meant that surfing and extra training wasn't the right option. So I was sort of left searching a little bit. I think you're actually on the walk the day that I found a hard rubbish canvas in Ascovale when I was living with Riley and Angus Monfries, and I ended up bringing it home and just drawing on it. I drew some cartoons and then I drew a shoe on the front.
Had a big hole in it.
Yeah, a big hole in the canvas. It was it was cooked. But it's funny that like just walking that route, I see a canvas, and pretty much from that moment on, I haven't stopped drawing or doing art.
So did you see the canvas and you went instantly, I need an outlet.
It almost cold to me, yeah. It was like, I could paint that. Like I can't do much of my days off at the moment.
Yeah, and creativity I think does call you if you have the capacity to listen and see what the universe is offering you as a creative soul, because we're all creative in some way, and you have the capacity to see it. I think a lot of people don't see it when the universe is calling, but clearly you're getting a big fat call. It's like, oi, canvas, you will do something on me.
Yeah, no, it was it's pretty cool, and then it's gone a long way now. It's probably been 3 years or so of probably 2 or 3 years of doing a lot of art, pretty much every day off.
Stuff, a lot of pop culture stuff.
Everything. I'm doing a coffee table at the moment. I've
really
done skateboards, I've done canvases, tattooing, whatever. I have no direction. I'm just doing it because I love doing it. It feels really peaceful, and it becomes a meditation for me, really. I've got ADHD and I'm not very good at sitting still, but I can fixate on a piece of art for hours and miss dinner and not even realise. And it's pretty special to have found an outlet, and it's times like this where you are injured that you really appreciate that. And I'm grateful that I was able to listen to those cues and reconnect with my art, and that's a big part of my life now.
It's huge. It's amazing, and it's just pure flow state.
Yep.
Which is, if we get back to the whole idea of taking off your mask and just focusing on, the nobody behind the somebody that we project out to the world, and we get to express what's in our soul. It's beautiful. So, lads, I want to talk about anxiety and fear. Something I've always wanted to ask a footy player. I went to a game not long ago, the Bulldog supporter. I went to the Carlton Geelong game at the G, and I was sitting sort of quite centre wing, and it's been a long time since I've sat really close to the ground on level one, and the amount of knocks and body-on-body contact and just hard things that happen that we sort of take for granted how courageous and brave you are, but are you ever actually scared out there? Is it like you're going for a contest and you're up against, I don't know, like a Charlie Dixon or Sam Draper or big sort of mummy back in the day when you guys first started out, and you're going, fuck, this is so scary?
I don't know. I feel like I've always kind of think this. Sometimes it's always the smaller players who have the biggest crack, and then it's always the big boys who can't really find it. So I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I've never personally had many issues with that, and even coming back through injuries, I feel like once I'm back, I'm never thinking about that injury again. Which, I hear some players and obviously I understand that, but some players kind of don't ever get that confidence back in their body, and but I feel like it's something that I've able to deal with quite well. Is coming back, and once I'm playing, I'm not thinking about getting injured or worrying about this or that. It's kind of just kind of free flowing.
And never worrying about getting hurt, never worrying about going back with a fly at the ball and someone coming from the other end and just smacking you, because I'm watching it, worried shitless for you.
I'm probably just saying drop a ball, not flying.
I think it's part of footy why we love it. It's the combative side of it. We've grown up doing it and becomes sort of normalised, I guess, a bit. But, I mean, when you talk about your anxieties, for me, I don't think it's that brings that on. Nah, it's not. I think it's all up top, really. It's the perceptual thing, what people are thinking of you, how people are judging you, wanting to improve and get more out of yourself and feeling like you're holding yourself back. That's the scary stuff. The fear of failure.
Not reaching your own potential.
All of that. I think that's where it can really grab you, the anxiety stuff. And
how does that manifest for you guys? Where do you feel that? How do you feel that? What sort of conversations happen for you internally? What's happening in your body when anxiety comes up for you? Maybe what lessons you've learned around anxiety?
Well, for me, I didn't. It's funny. I kind of knew I had it at a young age. Well, I say had it. It's on a continuum. Everyone's got anxiety to a degree. I knew that I dealt with it a bit younger. I saw a psych when I was I think it was under 12s. After I was just cut.
You went to a psych when you were 11.
Which is super unnormal back then. And it was on the back of missing out on the under 12s Vic team and sort of having a panic attack in the process of it. And parents obviously were great and noticed that and sort of felt like this might need some help. That wasn't exactly a normal way to react and stuff. So from that point on, in my head, I cured it. Like I'd talk to someone that was a pro at this and it was fixed. And it probably didn't resurface, or I probably didn't acknowledge it until my first year when I was back playing AFL, or was in my first 3 games sort of thing, and realising the nerves and stuff that I was feeling, and not all this feeling of discomfort and not knowing what that was. And I think, it was probably from then on that I recognised it. And then again, it took me a little bit longer to deep dive into actually getting curious as to what that was. And I listened to one podcast and it literally just put everything together, and I was like, that's me.
What podcast was it?
It was a Dylan Friends one with Nick Haynes, and he spoke about his experiences as a footballer with anxiety, and it all just matched. And I was like, I'm listening to this and hearing it on a deeper level than most people, I'm sure. And it just happened to be great timing. So after the hub in our first year, instead of flying back with the team, I bought a car and did a road trip home by myself. Which is just a great way to deep dive and think after a year that wasn't what I thought my first year was going to be, obviously being in Queensland, but playing 3 games, playing first one good, and then this next 2 being really panicked and anxious in hindsight. And so, on that deep dive, I heard this podcast and it started to connect a lot of dots. And then once you acknowledge it and know what's going on, then it's a lot easier to find answers. But for so long I was ignoring it, and that's what I think allows anxiety to fester and grow and have a bigger impact when you don't front up to it. So even just from that moment on, knowing that, okay, it's not something I fixed when I was 12, it's going to always be there, but I can cope with it effectively. And to the point today where I can actually use it to my advantage as a way to excite me and get me up and have this feeling of buzz through my body. And it makes me feel alive. It tells me I know I care about what I'm doing, and rephrasing what I think anxiety is has been so important. And then also knowing that every other player is going to experience a bit of that. And there's a lot of players out there that haven't learned how to cope with it. And that's my advantage on them now, where they might be a better athlete, but if I can win a couple early contests on them or something, then might not cope with it as well as I think I can now. So you actually learn to use anxiety as a tool and something that's good for you, I think, in the long run. But it was through a big deep dive process where I was searching for answers for a while there. And not a lot made sense for me until it did. But back to your point earlier about Riley and I, seem like we've grown up quick. I think that's what footy does to you, and it's a blessing because it's like a university degree of life, I think, footy. You grow up really quick. The median age would be 25 or 6, so you kind of become that socially and intellectually, and you're put under pressure that CEOs and stuff would be put under, big companies, and you got to learn how to deal with that at 18, 20, whatever age. And I think you come out with a lot of really good lessons, whether it sucked at the time or not.
Yeah, one of Ash's great quotes is, you go to school and you do a whole bunch of lessons and at the end you get tested you get into life, get tested a lot, and now after that you get a whole bunch of lessons. And you guys look like you've been tested plenty of times, and you've got a whole bunch of lessons from it. What are the lessons of anxiety? What do you lean into? Is it routine? Is it ritual? Is it meditating? Is it ice bathing? What are the things that go, okay, if anxiety is my fear of a forward projection in my life and how I want things to go, and being scared that they might not go that way, what brings you back to the present moment to be able to handle what life's giving you right now?
I feel like I've been quite fortunate in like the support I've had around me, and I feel like I'm quite aware of, like when I am feeling a bit anxious about football or future, whether it's like contract or things outside of football. But for me, I'm very chill. Like I feel like I'm able to be aware of that, and then whether it's go for a walk or go to the club and do some hot colds, call family, call friends back home. I feel like I'm quite good at realizing I'm in like a little bit of a rut and then getting out of it. But it's very simple. I don't think I'd go searching for, I guess.
So there's not a structure or routine?
For sure. Nah, I think I'm just very cruisy and chilled, and I know those things are, what's important to me. And once I'm doing them, I'm feeling good. So it's definitely
just getting back to you and your values.
Yeah, I think so. And just kind of simple things that work for me, whether it's just good quality time with, my partner or friends or family. They're the things that I love.
Yeah. I love that you put hot and colds in there.
Yeah.
Little walk. What about you, Codes? What are the, like, I know that you are quite big on routines, aren't you?
Yeah, so mine probably wasn't as natural. I had to sort of figure that out a bit more. Why I kept having this feeling resurface and ways to cope with it, and routine was probably the biggest part of that. I hadn't realised, but coming out of school where everything's so structured and you know where to be at all times, into footy, and I'm out of home now, and at the age of 18, I probably just lost all of that. Other than my training times and stuff, I was a little bit all over the shop. And if I had to, for us, when you go to the club in the morning is when you're structured for physio. So if I was on at 7:40, I'd be waking up at 7 earliest, and and I'd be out of the door at probably from Munro Street was about 12 minutes, so I'd give myself 13 or so. And if I had traffic, then I was running into the club and I was a bit late for physio, and then you snowball into the next thing because the physio gets into you and then you miss your next meeting. And I didn't realise at the time how much that was affecting me, but I was kind of living in anxiety, just trying to bounce from one thing to another. And
so living a rushed life. Yeah.
Well, for sure.
Yeah, but you'd created the rush life.
I created all the rush. Always in a rush, nowhere to be kind of thing.
Yeah.
And now once I started to just wake up early, like I get up at 6 every day now. I don't need to be at the club at 7:40, but now I can enjoy a coffee in the shop and relax, and I can check my schedule and know what's going to happen throughout the day and set my day up a little bit, do some planning, and I have the same structure morning and night. I like to look at it as like bookends.
So what does that look like? What's your sort of, you get up at 6 and you go to bed at what time?
Like 9:30.
Yeah. And so what are your practical things? When Cody gets up, he steps into or does X, Y, and Z before he go to bed as well.
A lot of it I don't even realise I'm doing now, which is good because it's sort of second nature, but
Beautiful.
Same time waking up is important, or within a pretty tight window. I think because even with your sleep, how good that is for you, your body starts to recognise when you're going to wake up, when you're going to go to sleep, and it starts to wind you down or up.
And you're on a circadian rhythm there as well.
So you
actually
train your body. Whereas if you're sporadic with that, I think you can be waking up half asleep or going to bed wide awake, and you're killing yourself in terms of your sleep hours and patterns. So that helped a lot with that. And as footballers, recovery is sleep pretty much. So that was super important. But then I'll shower, and that for a while there was a cold shower. Now I've got great ice baths at the club, so I can go to that there. But I'll be out of the shower, get changed, have my brekkie, have my coffee, sit down, actually enjoy my coffee, take time with that. And it's a lot of, I'm probably skipping a lot of my stuff, and actually little things that I do.
Because it's so normal.
Yeah.
I love that you said actually take time with the coffee. There's this thing I like to talk about, which is when you add sacred into something that's a routine, it becomes a ritual.
Yeah.
And when we make something ritual, we bring soul to it. we bring heart to it, or we bring reverence to it, or gratitude to it, or a deeper respect to it. All these sort of things that make us care about it more, but also know that we're going to continue it. There's something about ritual, and we've probably lost ritual in life. Not many people do grace before meals. The sort of idea of religion or going to church or synagogue or mosque or whatever, we see the declining rates in people who are actively participating in religion, but bringing ritual into the most basic things like a coffee and really tasting each sip and feeling that, not just going, this is there to perk me up and then onto the next thing that I'm going to do, and we're just in this sort of doing. It's bring it back to being.
Yeah, for sure. Days that I think I need to perform or be operating at a high frequency, I'll try to get some breath work or meditation in. I used to do it every day for a good while there, and felt like I started forcing myself, and now I kind of just listen to when I feel like doing it and lean into that. And there's also ways it doesn't have to be as forceful, like it can be a walk without your phone or something, and that's still a meditation degree, or a time where I just give myself 5-10 minutes to have nothing on today, because you know that once you get to the club, it's going to be go, and you're not going to have time to exactly rest and be present or by yourself as much. So I try to get that in the morning, and that's also an anchor throughout the day that I can come back to that feeling if I feel like I'm getting a bit stirred up within the day, and I can come back to that feeling this morning and start from there and rebuild the day a little bit. So that was important. I think you noticed that when I come back from the hub and my drive home, and I was doing that. Riley went to Perth, and then I started having all this routine. You come home, you're like really into this, aren't you?
Yeah.
But
man.
Yeah,
and did you notice the shift in him?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I think so. Well, we didn't really live.
Jeez, that's when you're supposed to say, yeah. He was absolutely spent. He was cooked.
We were in the hub for 6 months, so I wasn't necessarily with him every day. Yeah, we had our own bedrooms, which was all right. But yeah, I mean, like you definitely see a shift in, who they are and how, I guess, like he said, he was very like on the go all the time. And, like I feel like now he's definitely not as rushed, So I feel like that's definitely something I've seen.
Yeah. I love this saying that's like, you ask yourself, where are you?
Yeah.
Here. What time is it? Now. And that simple thing, I love you said, of going for a walk without your phone. Like how many times are we going for a walk with our phone, on the phone, like even checking socials on and flicking through things while we're at the traffic lights. Like we're not here now. We're somewhere, but being somewhere else. And the phone has so much to do with it. Like it is this gateway for information. It's this gateway for distraction.
Yeah.
And so, that simple thing of like, I'm really into practical tools that people can use and how we here have a voice to inspire people to make little changes. And I just think that's a huge one. Go for a walk and be here now. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So the word success is something that comes up for a lot of people. Am I successful? Do I feel successful in what I'm doing? And you guys have this perception of succeeding in becoming AFL footballers. How has the word success shifted from you from, the dream in juniors to getting drafted to being in the system now? What does that word mean? How's it shifted?
Well, I feel like it's come a long way from what I grew up thinking success was to like what I think it is now. I feel like me personally, like success is living a happy, content life, making a lot of memories. Like they're the things that are important to me. And I feel like growing up, it's like 200 games, like you have all these ideas that once I hit that's going to make me successful. But yeah, like I feel like I'm very simple and it's just the little things, I guess. Like I just want to live a happy life, make a lot of memories with my family and friends, and just like make others happy and laugh. So that's kind of where it shifted for me, and yeah, I guess it's come a long way.
I love how much that you keep coming back to this idea of family, of your partner, of laughter, of happiness. That these are sort of entrenched in your core values now, and no matter what happens in footy, that is what brings you joy, and that, like as you said, that's your definition, and that's you redefining success.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful because it's something that I feel like it's just come back around every time we sort of talked.
Yeah, I think so, and I feel like every time I've gone through a setback or a challenge, it's like those are the things that definitely like make me feel happy and content. And I feel like every time you go through challenges, like they're the things that you need to go back to. And that's something that I've learned along the way that is going to work for me, because there's no doubt more shit's going to happen in the future. Like it's just what happens. So yeah, they're the little things that I go back to.
Beautiful. Love that. Codes?
Yeah. You know, when you're young and people ask, like, what do you want to be when you're older?
Yeah.
My, like, stock answer was a millionaire.
Yeah.
I thought that was
not what do you want to do? What do you want to be?
Yeah, like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? And
I feel like it's always, what do you want to be?
Yeah.
And then we say something that we want to do. We never say, what do you want to be? Happy?
Yeah.
What do I want to be? A football player, a fireman, a millionaire?
Yeah. I'm like 5-year-old saying this, so clearly Rob Dog had his values entrenched in me. But I thought a millionaire was a job. And so I'm like, that's me kind of thing. It's funny that now you look back at that and it's like what money changes to you and stuff, the values of that. And even why I'm so into the idea of doing art one day potentially as a full-time job, I think it's because it enables me to live a similar life to have now, where I don't have to be employed by someone. I can choose my own work hours. I can be creative. I can travel. I can live a lifestyle that suits me, I think. So
gives you agency.
I think that's success, yeah, where you genuinely enjoy what you're doing day to day, which I think Riley and I would reflect on footy. And that's a lot of the reason we wanted to play footy too, because your day to day is investing in yourself and getting fun times with your mates and staying fit and healthy. And that's I think success at the end of the day for me is having, ticking those values off of things you want to do in life and ways that you want to live. And I think that art can also serve me that, hopefully long term. So hopefully that's the next route.
And I love that you sort of open to the doing or the vessel for your purpose shifting. It doesn't have to be, I'm happy because I'm playing football and then footy's over and therefore I'm not happy, I'm not content or whatever. It can shift as long as you're staying true to who you are and how you express. You're expressing on the football field, you're expressing at the club, you're expressing with your art. Beautiful answers, guys.
What's success to you, mate?
What's success to me? It's about sitting in my core values, which is courage, vulnerability, love, adventure, friendship, family. As long as they're there and I'm fulfilling my deep purpose, which is to tell stories and be a facilitator for telling stories and enable people to feel the depths of what it is to be truly human. As long as I'm a part of sharing that or facilitating that, it doesn't matter whether I'm on this potty with you guys or writing or out there on stage becoming a character that gets to share their story, or just in great chats with friends and my partner and my family. Like if I'm a part of enabling people to really feel, then I feel successful. Lads, I reckon we've come to pretty much the end of the potty. I want to thank you so much for coming on. It's been awesome chatting, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, Josh. Thanks, mate.